Let's get going. And for those of you tuning in, you were seeing a prop that we stopped, so Mike can go grab the prop.
I mean, this is kind of, I didn't know that something that was just getting started could already break.
It's oil specific, and people have pointed that out. Hey, you know, Apple makes 20 billion or more a year in California.
I'm telling you, man, that music just gets me so motivated to talk about energy. All right,
Doesn't
Mike?
it?
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear that music, I'm like, I'm about to learn some really exciting stuff about energy. Not only that, I'm listening to two cool dudes talk about energy headlines and how it kind of parlays into the energy discussions that we should be having on Energy Facts Chat. So, Mike, good morning to you, buddy. How are you doing today? There's a lot of news hitting
Good morning.
there's a lot of news hitting the circuits this morning, if you will, and a lot of it kind of is tying into it. Obviously, Mike, you've sent a lot of stuff. You seem very excited this morning, which I dig.
Yeah.
Information about kind of what's going on with the whole Russia-Ukraine war, about the Israel attack and all that stuff was going on in the energy realm. And besides, we're not going to. Our goal isn't to get inside the politics and the details of that, just to discuss how it can affect the oil markets and also the everyday consumer, the environment, what this means. So, if you're enjoying it, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel, and we'll try to head over there before we close out to kind of see if there's any comments over there if you want to dial in and all that stuff. But let's get this kicked off today, Mike.
Let's do it.
You ready? You want to bring the headlines up? Is that what's going on?
Sure, bring them up. Yeah. And like you said, we try to avoid the politics, Democrat, Republican type politics. But I think today's headlines show that, you know, oil markets are quite political, and political choices are having huge impacts on the global market right now. And it's almost every headline this morning is related.
That's why, you know, a lot of news stations, a lot of people that bring you the news shy away from politics. Not
No, not energy, not the facts, not if they have facts, right?
Everyone does it. Everyone doesn't shy away from that. Everyone okay, let's get. Hey, we got some comments rolling in
already. Daryl, what's up?
Not yet. Daryl's not yet. Good morning, Jimmy. Good morning, Mike. Just out here listening to drive to Montana. So you got a beautiful drive on the road. Eyes are on the road. You're not looking at these two dudes. Your eyes are on the road, and you're listening to some Energy Facts Chats. I love it. Rangers, really, JP Warren? Bro, no, man. Like,
see, I was looking at that, and it's just the T, and there's no A and M, and that was confusing me. So then I had to put my Tulsa hat on forward, so we had a couple of T's going.
Take it easy, Kevin. That's the one. Kevin, that's the one comment you're going to give me after all these episodes. You're going to give me a Ranger comment, not a, hey, this is really good information, JP and Mike. Thanks for bringing this to me every morning. But anyway, Kevin, thanks for tuning in, brother. Hey, and Bob, good morning to you. I know you're listening. I know you've been a shadow listener lately, Bob. Good morning to you. So, hey, let's get this kicked off. Let's get to the energy headlines that you need to know.
Yeah, let's start with one that on the back page of the business and finance section of the Wall Street Journal, it says, oil doesn't need war to rise. So this just friendly reminder just at the top of what we're covering here today, that Saudi Arabia announced their production cuts early September. Right. Those are still on the table. So this article basically says, hey, we don't necessarily need a war to see oil rise because we already are facing supply constraints from the extended OPEC cut. So that's very basic.
Can you touch base? Look, I don't know if we have this information on hand or anything like that, but I noticed there was a lot of chatter on Twitter yesterday or the day before about the SPR being drained to like record levels being low. So, I mean, this plays into gas prices or oil price and all that. So can you tie that into real briefly? Because I know there'll be a lot of news for it.
Yeah, I saw folks tweeting something like, oh, we'll drain the SPR in 17 days or some rate. Well, yeah, if you just continue to sell out of it. I think the main thing that I think about with the SPR is we used it to manipulate prices in time of peace. So now when you have wars breaking out and wars ongoing, now you have multiple wars, theaters set out there in the global stage. Now how effective can you be with the SPR? How much more can you drain it to where, you know, I see folks say, oh, the caverns aren't stable, or we need this blend of sweet and sour, and we're getting the sour from from Saudi and OPEC. And I don't know. I think the basic thing I think about is we sold a lot out of the SPR, and now that's a finite supply. So now you have roughly half as much. And how effective can you be in an extended period of global conflict?
So
I don't know. How do you look at it?
No, you just see a lot of you know what it's like. It's kind of like I feel like there's one of those things where it's like, kids gonna be sitting around like in 2045, 2050, and like, hey, what was it like, Grandpa? What was it like with reliable, cheap energy? It's like, well, we drained the SPR, we did this, we made all these investments. Now, it's like, tell us how you kind of like you invested in poor energy policy, Granddad. What was it like in the days of abundance? You were gonna afford to make a living. So, no, look, I don't have an analysis or anything like that. I just think I love watching all this stuff and just kind of seeing the seeds that are kind of being planted right now, and just kind of like the lack of science, physics, reality, and just demand when it comes to energy, and just kind of what you talk about stages and theaters in this world and all that stuff, what that's going to set, because we're seeing this right now. It takes years to uncouple poor energy policy with reality. So that's these high energy prices are going to be around for a long time unless we fix something, unless we approach it more holistic point of view. So, man, I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be a wild ride regardless. So let's keep
and that's a good segue. Let's go now from the fact that we don't need war. We've got this SPR that's half drained or more. Now, U.S. to target evasion of Russian oil sanctions. So now we kind of go back. Okay, it's been what? We're coming up on a year and a half, 2 years
14,
of this
15 months,
Russian war. And from the beginning, we were told by our politicians, oh, well, we'll just sanction their oil. We'll just impose these sanctions. Anything over $60 a barrel, nobody can buy it. So that's your price cap. And now, of course, we see this article that says, hey, Secretary Janet Yellen is saying that the U.S. would very likely take steps to enforce the $60 barrel price limit that the U.S. and its partners imposed on Russian oil sales. So we imposed this price cap, and here we are 15 months later, and we still haven't figured out how to enforce it. Is my takeaway.
Okay.
So Russia's been making all this money in the black market, selling their crude, and I sent you a snippet of that tanker trackers on Twitter. Right. Yeah. So what this everybody should follow this tanker trackers on Twitter. I don't know how accurate the information is, but you don't really see people finding tanker photos regularly. So they've got to have something going on with the satellite imagery there. But what they're saying is, in this case, they've got a Western insured super tanker, and that jives with what we read in the Russian article, that these super tankers are finding Western insurance companies. Those insurance companies are not supposed to be allowed to insure both Russian and Iranian crude. But now what they do is they turn off their tracking beacons, and they'll go and they'll do these lightering maneuvers. They can basically move product from one tanker in the middle of the ocean to another tanker in the middle of the ocean. Nobody's seeing this happen. So these black market trades, these illicit trades, are happening all over on the global scale and have been this entire conflict, but very few people are reporting about this.
So this is just a virtue. This was a virtue approach to, I guess, obviously, punish Russia, put sanction on stuff. In reality, it's not doing anything. If anything, people are profiting from this.
Exactly. And that's another article. Russian sanctions, and these are all today's Wall Street Journal. Russia's sanctions probe focuses on oil traders. So now you've got the tanks lightering and moving crude out on the ocean. And then you've got these Western insurance companies. And this guy said, the owner, Lakhani, said in July that he and every company in which he has an interest were no longer involved in the Russian oil trade. It's just baloney. This is the guy. He's a chief executive of Mercantile and Maritime Group, a major oil trading and shipping company with head offices in Bahrain and Singapore. Again, If you do not have these companies located in the United States, how effective can you be in sanctioning them? And how do you know what in the world they're actually doing?
You know what it's like? I love drawing bad analogies to things. You know, I'm real bad. I'm real good at drawing bad analogies, at least starting them, and then like kind of come to like, okay, well, this is a good analogy now. So I'm going to start an analogy. We'll probably carry it through. It's kind of like your kid's messed up. Your kid's Russia. It's messed up. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to limit your screen time. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to limit your screen time. Well, because you're really going to learn. I'm going to punish you. You're really going to learn. You know, but however, kids are like, okay, you realize I understand how to get through these loopholes. I understand how to hack the system and kind of like bypass the parenting thing. And still, I'm fine. So in reality, not only do I have free access to screen time, but now I know the parental blocks, so I have to figure out a way to get around it. So I can look at all this other stuff, you know, Bob's on the internet,
right?
Whatever. But yet, you know, my parents still tell me, hey, look, you know, you only allowed this much screen time. So anyway, it's just kind of a loophole to get out of it. And in reality, the people that are benefiting are the kids with the iPads, aka the loopholes, because they're still profiting off of
right.
Okay. All right. So
no, that's a perfect. Now I was thinking of the same thing yesterday with my kiddos getting in trouble at lunch, you know, making bad decisions. And then we took away the TV yesterday, and then we walk in and he's watching on the couch. I'm like, oh man, the remote was left out. Like, he got it. He got around the sanction. And
that's why you got to go down to Little Italy and take them to Mona Lisa, Mike. That's my favorite. They take my family there all the time.
Right. but it that's a perfect segue into this article again, Wall Street Journal, how Biden's policy enriched Iran. And basically, it talks about Iran getting the proceeds of $6 billion in unfrozen assets, as the Biden administration was trying to just kind of, hey, if we just ease up over here, they'll do what they're supposed to do. They'll play nice. And clearly, we now see that they took proceeds, maybe not directly that $6 billion, but they're getting pacified and they're getting to do whatever they want. And now we see this terrible outbreak of war in Israel and Gaza, funded by Iran.
I like the pause there because I think that just kind of needs to sit down a little bit. I mean, there's really no comments about that. It's just, it sucks.
Yeah, it's awful. I think it goes to what we've been talking about, the boomerang that will happen, because ultimately the people of the United States are going to say, look, I want a healthy climate. I want a great environment for my family to go outside. And then they're going to look up and they're going to say, you know what? There's no bombs here in the United States. Everything is actually really great. We live in an amazing country. And now I'm not able to buy my energy from my neighbor. That's what's going to happen. People are going to say, you know, I'm not able to buy my power or my oil and gas from people that I know in my community. I now am I'm awakened to this fact that it's a global market. And as we wage war, we, the politicians in DC and Sacramento, as we wage war on our local energy producers, that simply gives more money to the bad guys. And the bad guys are OPEC, the bad guys are Iran, the bad guys are Russia, the bad guys are able to produce the very same product that we're using in the United States, and they're able to do it and control the price of the market. And eventually the people in the United States are going to wake up to that and say, this is not working. We have a poor climate because we're waging war in all these places. That's a terrible environment for anybody to live in. And we're paying through the nose on prices for our energy. And all that profit is going to the bad guys that are making all these wars happen. And that's how this is all going to get connected.
I think when it comes to that, I think to get to that conclusion, though, I think it will take one of those things where you do have to have these conversations. You do have to understand, how do we get here? How did we get here? Oh, well, we only allowed 7 permits in the year of 2023 to drill for domestic oil and gas, for resources.
Right.
You like it, right. Hey, look, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's, rare earth minerals, whatever, it's resources. Okay, so capitalizing your land and producing in an environmental aspect, and you're kind of relinquishing your control, your power to those that kind of that control the funnel, control the spigot towards us. And actually, that's a great segue. Hey, that's a great segue to this last one that we're actually the last one. And then we're going to take the comments.
Right.
OPEC warns net zero push endangers global energy security. Right there, right below those two dudes. I thought that was kind of interesting too, because I went to that article, I started reading it. It's like it's pretty much saying, hey, look, like they're saying pretty much this green push. Now, this push to invest in this. We talked about this yesterday, Energy Fact Checks. This multi-trillion-dollar push for this untested, unproven, and this technology that really can't fill the energy caloric deficit that we need. So anyway, not funding, proper hydrocarbon or petro backed infrastructure. What that's doing, it says here, one of the bullet points, it says that global demand they're expecting will increase until 2045. Okay. Now, anticipated decline in global output by the early 2030s. That means everyone else is kind of shutting in the wells. They're not investing. The capital's not in the energy realm where they're not wells. They're not issuing permits. They're not doing local production. OPEC predicts its oil market share will increase from 34% to 40%.
Right.
OPEC predicts because of the lack of funding, lack of support, their market share will increase from 34% to 40% by 2045. Right. So what does that mean, Mike? What does that mean? So that means that, if we're all sitting here complaining about like the SPR, the XYZ, sitting around, bitching and moaning about it, we're literally just, again, relinquishing the control, power, the environmental responsibility that we have to these foreign sources to provide required energy caloric needs.
Exactly. And they're the ones warning us. This was from the OPEC minister. They're the ones warning us, hey, oil demand's going to go to 116 million barrels a day, and we're going to own even more of the market. And we're warning you that there's still not enough money coming into the market to develop these assets.
And I also kind of read more into that, saying, hey, look, if you guys want to kind of have a little bit of stake in the game or stake in whatever the price, if you control the price on stuff, if you guys want to have a little stake in this, then you need to start doing something about that. If not, you're giving us more of the monopoly that that the people bitch about.
Yeah, less and less competition, more and more relinquishing of control of the global market to those that are bad actors, to those that do not have our standards on the environment and human rights. And I did this. This is a good thing to finish up. I know you were going to finish up, but I did this little calculation because I filled up 16 gallons. It's interesting. The pump cut me off at 100. So either it's like, man, you got too much credit card debt, or they're just cutting everybody off at 100.
That's what I've been seeing doing whenever.
Yeah. So on $100 purchase, 16 gallons, I paid $6.25 a gallon.
Hold on a second.
What?
No, I'm gonna.
Oh, okay. $1.19 of that was taxes. That's $19 of my $100 went to taxes. There it is. Yeah, you got it up there. $1.10 is the average refinery gross margin, according to the California Energy Commission, which is now requiring refineries to report gross margin. So $17.60 went to the refineries. This doesn't include trading, of course, but $3.96 is remaining. So if we just took a look at the supply breakdown of that $3.96. $2.38, 60% went to foreign oil. So $38 went to foreign oil. That was $8.48 to Iraq, $6.40 to Ecuador, $6.24 to Saudi Arabia, $16.96 to others. California oil was roughly 23% of that mix. So $14.56 stayed in California to those producers, and $10.72 to Alaska. So what we see here is the number one beneficiary of my fill-up is foreign oil at $38. The number two beneficiary is the government at $19. The number three beneficiary, which is a gross margin, does not include their costs, is the refinery. And way down there at number four was other. Number 5 is the California producer. So while we see Sacramento rail on, it's these oil companies that are making all this money, they're gouging you. Absolutely not. foreign oil, taxes, refinery gross profit, not net profit, gross profit, other oil companies, then people in California. So your local economy is back of the line.
This would piss if you print some of this stuff out and put this on all the gasoline thing. Grassroots.
I've said that the gasoline.
And if you print something like this out, like that'd be so cool to have an app, like a California for Energy and Science app. Like, how much did you fill up? Well, this is how much going to the foreign countries.
Right.
How much? This is actually the only thing that's benefiting y'all. Wouldn't you want to have more stuff benefit? That would piss me off, man.
It should. Now it doesn't include, the trading market, and obviously there's other things. It's a back of the envelope calculation.
For the brakes. Hey, we got some YouTube cats chiming in right now.
You got a YouTube cat on?
YouTube cats chiming in. We're getting some YouTube comments. I love it.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Hey, Mike, you ready to take it to the street?
Yeah. Take it to the street. Let's see what we got.
Okay. We got Tyler saying this is in relation to Iran. The $6 billion was certain is funded by Iran. Al Qaeda was funded by the CIA in Afghanistan, Syria. Factual, we don't know. Boom. That's true.
Hey, that's true. We don't know.
All right. We don't know. But
I would ask Tyler, should we give benefit of the doubt to Iran, or should we maybe consider that the ease of sanctions has given them some flexibility, some maneuverability in Iran?
But again, taking it back, Mike, does this just mean we need to support local domestic oil production?
It is the opening sentence. The journals, Wall Street Journal, so credible source, report that Iran signed off on the Hamas assault on Israel should jolt President Biden from his failed Iran strategy. Opening sentence. So I don't know.
Okie dokie. All right, we have Ryan Walker. Hello from DC. Ryan, we can't wait to see you. What is that? 2 weeks, Mike? You have your flight booked and all that stuff.
I got to set my Southwest points for that, man. I'm broke.
Dude, get on. We're all broke. You know what?
I got no production. I'm not allowed to produce my barrels.
But it can all go to the foreign sources out there. We have Tyler said some of the weapons used in Israel were likely left behind by U.S. and Afghanistan. Maybe, probably. I don't know. I don't know enough, but that's stuff like that's interesting to me. We have a Thad saying, "Did you watch Gavin's rebuttal that we are energy independent? 9.5 quad."
Yes. So Governor Newsom, Thad's referring to Sean Hannity's interview with him, where Governor Newsom said, "Hey, we're exporting more energy as a country under President Biden than any time before," which is factually correct. Where Sean Hannity didn't have the knowledge, or maybe he didn't think of it, to challenge Governor Newsom is, well, let's look at the fourth largest economy of the world, which is California. Where do you get 70% of your oil and gas? Not California. So those are the connections where the mainstream media has failed to. And like I put, while I filled up $100 yesterday, I can do the math and look at the percentages of where the product comes from, and you see, hey, a vast majority of the economics are leaving California for foreign oil producers.
So Daryl Chicken says Canadian gas pump shows a pie chart with each liter you buy, percentages going to in taxes. It's much worse. That's crazy. I think
worse in Canada.
That's
why I ain't never gonna live in Canada.
Coming from if a Californian
it's cold.
A guy from California says I'm never living in Canada. That's a bold statement. Okay. All right. We have Mike saying, see. Totally. I'm with you. Thanks. I love it. So we are getting YouTube comments. I love that. So
nice.
Hey, Mike, what else you got for us on your radar today?
Tomorrow I'm going to the California Economics Summit. I'm pretty fired up about that, to hopefully share some of these thoughts with a lot of policymakers in Sacramento. It's put on by a group called California Forward, and it's something that is important to me. I want to be involved in that process. And it's something that I think, as a closing message today, that I would share with people is, if you don't like what's happening from a policy perspective, get educated on it, and then go to the events, go to these summits where folks that don't have the same views that you might have, or maybe they do in some cases, but go to places where you might not feel comfortable. Go into those settings and go with your information and have a conversation, a respectful conversation, and learn.
You know what? That's a good point. whether people have the same views or not, look, we're all human. Everyone has different views about everything. No two people are alike. But the fact that people have different views is one thing. You can connect with people on what versus views. How about connect with people on what they're experiencing? Like, hey, did you notice that your electricity bill is a lot higher than this? Hey, did you notice that gas is ridiculously higher here than everywhere elsewhere? Like, talk about the experiences that you're going through. And, talking about, you had that point about going there and engaging all this stuff. I was actually bringing this up before Ryan chimed in, but, you and I had a podcast with Ryan Walker, with Shoemaker Advisors. And honestly, the takeaway was like, you don't have to be steamrolled by what the politicians say, decide, and all that stuff. There's ways around that, and the ways to get things done, to get things through the finish line, or to even start the conversation, is to start engaging with policymakers and people that shape energy policy. So again, 100% on that. And in reality, I didn't realize the weight and the gravity of doing stuff like that. I thought it was more like grassroots, like, hey, just be as your neighbors, which is also important, but it's also getting involved. So, Mike, I love that you're doing it. I'm looking forward to getting feedback on that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, Dale Chicken said that's why he pieced out of Ventura. So, all right, everyone. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Energy Fact Checks. If you enjoyed this, please talk about it. We try to gather some support about this, trying to show love for Californians for energy and science. So, again, everyone out there, be kind, spread some good, factual energy, and we'll see y'all soon. For those of you tuning in, you were seeing a prop that we stopped, so Mike can go grab the prop.
I mean, this is kind of, I didn't know that something that was just getting started could already break.
It's oil specific, and people have pointed that out. Hey, Apple makes 20 billion or more a year in California.